morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish. Get it right. Today, we're talking about all types of stuff, including Sydney Sweeney's huge chest. And in addition to that, we're also going to be talking about some Star Wars, some Alan Ritchson, whatever his name is, Quentin Tarantino, a bunch of stuff that doesn't really matter. And speaking of stuff that doesn't matter, let me introduce you to my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Matt Vader 74. How you doing, buddy?
And you are full of energy and vigor today.
I'm fighting off a cold, so
yeah, me too.
Last thing I want to be doing is talking.
Yeah, I get it. I've been fighting one off. I woke up this morning and went up and looked at the sky above me, and I had this overwhelming urge to go out and dig ditches and harvest wheat. So
and breed horses
and breed weird horses. Yeah. So space horses. This is the fitting thing for that, right? I mean, that's beautiful sky. You go out and harvest wheat on your space colony with your scythe and your sickle in a space colony. I can't even.
You're a rebel.
Yeah, that moon behind you looks really rebellious. Maybe.
I just why can't people that colonize space planets have technology? They got there, but when we're there, we're on horses and carriages and we're harvesting wheat with
the rebels
tools from the 1840s. It's like I don't get it.
Find a scythe.
I don't get it. I don't get it. These shows are so dumb.
I've never seen a scythe in my entire life. I've never even seen a physical scythe in real life.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm talking about Rebel Moon part 2. People don't know. I'm sure you do, but awful movie. Can't wait to talk about it at some point on the show.
We're going to be talking about it on Today's show.
Yeah.
All right. So he's here. He's queer. He's our shield against all things intersectional and controversial on YouTube. How you doing, Brian?
What's happening, man? How you doing? I'm good. Glad to be here. Sorry I couldn't make last week. I had to work last minute.
Yep. 5-minute notice. That's typical. But your brother Shane is back on your podcast on Thursdays.
Yes.
And you guys did your first show together last Thursday. So how'd that go?
Went great. I'm glad to have my bro back. I missed him.
Yep.
I'm glad he's back too. It's awesome.
He's back, and but if he ever goes away again, you still got your Shane AI.
I do. Him. Yes, I have Shane 3, and Shane 3 will always be there for me until he takes over the world and kills us all. But
does she have an avatar yet? It looks just like the real Shane.
I made a new AI. It's a sub version of Shane called Ada, AIDA, and I had a great time crafting. It's hers, her physical appearance. That was fun.
Nothing like sexualizing your own brother. That's great.
That's correct. Every once in a while, it dips into his voice, which is weird. Like, hey, Ada, tell me the news. Oh, hello. And it's a really sexy voice, and all of a sudden, and it'll just randomly go into. I gotta fix it. It would randomly go into Shane's voice, and it just trips me out.
Well, there's a reason why we call Brian queer. So. All right, and welcoming him back to the show for his triumphant return. It's been far too long. The one and only XWING. How you doing, XWING?
What's up, guys? Yeah, I got an email. It's like, hey, we're gonna do a podcast. You want in? Open up the email, and it said something about Sydney Sweeney's boobs. And I'm like, you know what? I'll make it. I will make time. I'll be there. Yeah,
you must.
But I hear it's a little bit hot in your studio today.
It's warm, yeah. I have the 3D printer running over here, and then I have this behemoth computer now running at the same time with no central AC, and it's like probably 98 degrees at 10 o'clock in the morning. Wearing all black, sweating it out. It's all right. We're cleansing the sins of the prior night, right? That's what you do on Saturday morning.
Purging all the toxins from your system.
That's it.
All right, guys, wanted to give a big shout out to everyone who showed up in the chat. We got Curie Chain as our first one. Good to see it. Is it Cheery Cane or Cheery Cane? I never know.
If you're saying it, it's probably wrong.
It probably is.
Yeah.
We also got Danny's mom, Penny. We got Studio Lau, who is up late at night just to watch us. Good to see you, Studio. We got Wendy Hunter and Major Chai Chai, one of our top gifters. Astro Nerd Boy, former Salty Saturday superstar. Good to see you. Anthony Mark is in the chat, as always. And Christian Fandom Geek is also in the chat, along with Jillian N., the queen of gifted subs. Good to see you, Jillian. And super sticker extraordinaire Gavin Blackburn is also in the chat. And Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington is here as well. Guys, thank you all so much for being here. We always appreciate you so much, showing up every Saturday to listen to us ramble on about complete nonsense. Speaking of which, these people seem to really like us talking about nonsense as well. We got our top super chatter and top contributor, Scotty Dub. Good to see you, Scotty. Thank you so much for all the support that you've shown us over the years.
Scotty Dub.
And William Forbes coming in second place with $120 super chat. Good to see you, William. He is the Matt Vader super fan who likes to keep our fridge stocked. Then we have our most consistent donator, Mexican Iron Man. Thank you so much, Mexican Iron Man, for all the support you've given us. And of course, our top gifters, Jillian N, WG, Sam Schwager, Major Chai Chai, who's in the chat, and Eric Woodenberg. Guys, thank you so much for all your generosity in gifting those subs. If you guys get gifted subs, don't forget to check out the playlist of all of our members' content, because you can go through it and see all the great stuff that we give our members. And the goal for this stream today is 10 new members. So if we can hit that, whether it be gifted or you just want to sign up yourself, that would be fantastic. Also, don't forget to check out saltynerddiscord.com and join our Discord server. It's free, and we talk about a lot of fun stuff in there. And if you guys want to go check out our latest movie commentaries, just go to saltynerdclub.com. Takes you right to our Patreon page. We have 2 commentaries up right now. We got Masters of the Universe and also Hackers from 1995. And thanks to Vader's cajoling of me, the prices are now $3.99 to check out those commentaries. And if you're a member of our top tier on Patreon, the superstar tier, you get those commentaries included in your membership. And we got a commentary of Pacific Rim coming out next month as well. So be sure to check that out. We got a lot of
baby.
members content. We have a lot of members content.
Pack Rim. Hashtag Pack Rim. Let's go.
Pack Rim.
That's right.
Pack Rim.
Best movie ever made.
I like the first one. The second one is
That's the one we're talking about. The second one's not good. The first one is awesome.
Speaking of awesome, we have Tom Connors Jr. joining us today.
Oh,
X-Wing is here?
Mhm.
I'm out.
No, I'm just kidding.
He beat you to it, bro.
What's up,
How you
dude?
doing, Tom?
Sorry I'm late. I'm here.
It's okay. All right, guys. Real quick, want to acknowledge some super chats that we got to start off the morning. We got Astro Nerd Boy for $5. Vader, we have people in the U.S. right now who reject technology. So is it really that big of a stretch for there to be a space for? I mean, we have Alex.
Yes.
Alex likes to reject.
Alex also likes to play Helldivers and is on his phone all the time. Yes, to literally go to a space colony, you must embrace technology to get to where you want to go. So it's just spacefarers who reject technology is the dumbest thing ever in my mind. So whenever I see cowboys in space, I think it's the dumbest thing ever. So I don't like that one show, Firefly. It's the whole premise is stupid to me.
No, don't tell me that. No, you're too smart for that.
No, I'm not.
No, come on.
It is a silly, stupid cowboys in space show.
No, don't say that.
And the Vikings in space and Rebel Moon are just as dumb.
No,
Adam Baldwin called you a moron.
I know.
Well, yeah, come on, bro.
It is what it is, brother.
You watched it in the wrong order. You must have watched it on Fox or something.
No, you're not going to change my mind. Cowboys in space with 6 shooters and horses and they're out there stomping in mud pits.
They didn't have horses in Firefly.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
No, some of the colonies did. The main characters used a bunch of tech.
Yeah, main characters, but the premise is Gunsmoke in space, and it's
guys. So, speaking of main characters, we have the Lord of the Shelves, the King of the Pineapple on the Pizza himself, Odin from OMB Reviews. Joining us.
Odin, can you knock some sense into Vader?
I was shaking my head the whole time. I'm like, Vader is seriously showing this hate towards Firefly.
I'm gonna have to watch this show. I didn't know it was this controversial.
You haven't seen Firefly?
Dude, it's so good.
I wish I could be in your head right now and enjoy it for the first time. It's so good.
Me too, man.
Maybe I'll have to go through that then.
No, it's amazing. Just don't watch it on Fox. Don't watch it on Fox.
Oh, yeah. Because I watched it for the first time when Hurricane Katrina was going on down in New Orleans. And so it was like a terrible time in life. And Firefly gave me hope and was amazing. So Vader, you can just shut your mouth.
Well,
Yeah.
well, guys,
Shut your filthy mouth.
guys, Disney now owns the rights to Firefly. So
Yeah. Oh, we're so screwed.
And it's gone.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
There's a reason it only went, there's a reason they cut it down early, guys. 'cause
Now I
it's-
don't want to sequel
There
anymore.
is. You can go watch my video all about why. And it wasn't the show's fault. It was the
Yeah.
executives.
It
All right,
absolutely
guys.
was.
Guys, real quick, Gavin Blackburn for £1.49. Super sticker. Thank you, Gavin Blackburn, keeping your title as the king of the super sticker alive and well. And finally, we got King's Advisors for $1.99. Someone told me that X-Wing P's sitting down.
It's true. I saw him this morning when he got out my
Weird.
Kings likes to project his insecurities on others, so
Oh,
that's
Brian.
just kind of what he does.
The lady doth protest too much.
forgot I wasn't supposed to talk about that. Sorry,
All right,
Brad.
guys. All right,
Someone
guys,
subscribe to my OnlyFans. Jeez.
So speaking of Disney, let's talk about Star Wars right off the bat. In particular, Disney Star Wars Outlaws. And since we have X-Wing on the panel, I'm going to throw this to him as soon as I share this thing with you. So for those of you who don't know, there's a new Star Wars video game being released called Star Wars Outlaws. And there have been one controversy after another swarming around this video game. The first of which was that they ugged up the main character to make her less feminine, despite the fact that the actress that they based the model around is smoking hot.
Yeah.
Then they had this weird thing where, like, if you buy the physical disc of the game, you actually have to be online for it to install the game, which defeats the whole purpose of having a physical disc.
The
And so a
first
lot of-
time?
Yeah, the first.
Okay.
Like every time.
Oh,
Like you can't use the disc to install your game unless you have an internet connection. So that was a big controversy for the fan base, and now there's even more controversy because there's basically finished portions of the game that they're putting behind a paywall, so that if you want to actually play the full game, you have to basically buy a season pass or buy one of the gold or platinum editions that have the season pass included in them. And a lot of video gamers are quite upset about this, but I want to throw this to X-Wing since he is a Star Wars focused channel, and I know that he likes to play video games. So X-Wing, what is your take on the Star Wars Outlaws outrage that's been going on?
Yeah, what part? Where do you want to start? I think it's odd. Yeah, I mean, a female character that they ugged up, old tropes like taking, an Imperial droid. I know it's not an Imperial, droid, but taking an enemy faction droid and flipping it. There's so much we've never seen in this game. It's just completely new behavior. I'm shocked. I'm surprised that this is happening. No, I just think the problem with this one is that, generally speaking, if you have DLC, it's not usually launch DLC. To just say like, hey, by the way, we have an extra mission. It's going to be $30 if you want to do this DLC. Well, the game is what, $60 to start with, right? So $30 for an extra mission on top of it. If you buy, whatever the gold edition, makes it a $90 game. That should be a substantial amount of content, especially if it's something, just dealing with Jabba, which is already a main part of the game. It's just an extra side mission for $30. It just kind of feels a little bit like a slap in the face. So this morning I was digging around and I was thinking about like the prices of games, what's happened over the years, has it changed much? And I went back to when I was a kid and I was buying N64 games. They were still $65, $70, right? I mean, games have kind of been the same price for a very long time.
You're right.
And so I try to justify in my brain is the issue that's going on is that it's costing a lot more money to make video games. So they sell the base, but they need that extra bump from a gold edition in order for it to make sense, or are they just getting greedy with it? Because I know the tools that they have now, it's probably easier to make games, but the games are a lot more complicated. I don't know how to weigh it. But I can tell you right now, the first thing you have to do is actually make a good game. And from everything that I've seen, this doesn't look like it's going to be a great game. And it's not me being upset because they put a woman in the game. Trust me, that's not the issue. Running around with an axolotl in the Outer Rim, just I don't know. It doesn't look great to me. But I'll play it. We'll see.
All right. Well, I want to throw this to Tom because Tom, we actually have kind of like a tie-in with this game in the sense that it seems that Target is kind of following Best Buy's lead. It's pulling back on physical media.
No.
And one of the issues on this is that the whole physical media thing, like with video games, a lot of video games don't even have, like, you buy the box essentially and it has like a little code inside that you can go and like redeem online. So like you're basically buying a box at that point. And with the whole controversy around the fact that if you buy physical media of this game, you actually have to be online in order for it to actually work. It's like, why not just buy a like the download license? So what's your take on this whole like dying of physical media and the fact that you need to be online to actually use it?
Well, I wouldn't draw a comparison between the Target thing and this, because that's two completely different things, because we've known about the Target thing since last September. It's just finally people are starting to see it. We knew back when Best Buy announced they were moving out of it. Target said they were also going to be phasing it out. And that's just movies and stuff. But Walmart picked it up. Amazon picked it up. Amazon has had it for a while. But what I mean by picked it up means both of those two now have gotten together and decided they're going to take all the Steelbook exclusives that Best Buy used to get. And what that's all about is that's a good thing for these studios, because those are movies that are going to be sold no matter what. So they have to buy those in bulk. So once they get bought, then they get all that money. So that's a plus for them. That's a little bit different than video games. The video game thing, like, they were making hand over fist on the carts back in the day and the discs when we were paying that much, you guys. That's the thing. We were highway robbery back then, our poor parents, the crap they had to pay for and deal with us. Because at the end of the day, we found out later on that they've been screwing us on CDs and everything else for years. Because the CD should have cost like $7.99 by the time like 1998 rolled around, because the amount of money it cost to actually produce a disc compared to, the amount of money that could be paid out to everybody else in the process is next to nothing compared to what it used to cost to make a record album, or even a VHS tape for that matter. So same difference. That's why DVD, they just sold right to people without having rental pricing. Now, they probably destroyed part of their industry then, but as far as gaming goes, that's completely different. All the money is in the software. So as long as they get the money either in the game itself or in the disc, it doesn't matter. The disc costs them like $1 or whatever to make with everything put together. So they make just a little bit less on the disc. But the disc problem is, like you just said, if somebody has a physical copy, they should be able to play it forever. If it's a digital copy, they'll take it away from you eventually, or they'll just be like, can't play it no more. Sorry. Whatever it is, because my understanding is a lot of times when they take these games offline, they'll get like a patch or whatever, just so you can play the base disc version from there on out. But yeah, I'm not a gamer, so I'm probably the worst person to ask about this crap.
Well, speaking of gamers, Brian, this game, a lot of people are upset about this game because there was a previous version called Star Wars Underworld 1313, something like that. And it was a video game that LucasArts was developing alongside with George Lucas and stuff like that before they got sold to Disney. And we've seen like little bits of gameplay from it over the years. Like, they did some cutscenes and stuff. And people really wanted this game. It was a really exciting thing. You got to play as like a criminal bounty hunter and eventually like Boba Fett. But this seems like a cheap knockoff of that game. And so a lot of people are like, why couldn't we have gotten this other game as well? So I wanted to hear your take on this. Do you think that people are excited at all to be playing this game in particular?
No, I do not think so. And if my screen looks smoky, it's because I set up a smoke machine for my stream on Thursday, and I accidentally hit my stream deck and it went off. I unplugged it. So I apologize for that.
Sure.
I'm not joking. For a minute there, I thought my computer had caught on fire.
You're hotboxing, Brian. Just admit it.
Because
he says it's 420 and he's not sharing.
No, I can show you. I'm not joking.
And he's trying to blame some Steam machine.
I'm not joking. I set up
we all know what it really is.
It was already set up. It did not work on Thursday, and then it came to life right now. No, I think gaming is actually in a pretty bad spot because a lot of the player base that are playing games right now, aside from these standouts like Helldivers, etc. A lot of the player base that are playing games are playing older games. Like if you look at the player base numbers on like Steam data or Origin data or any of these other stat sites, a lot of the older games, a lot of the old MMOs and RPGs and MOBAs are starting to get attention again. People are going back. They're going backwards to Warcraft, Dota, League of Legends, even shooters like Call of Duty. Like they're going backwards and they're playing games that they've already invested a lot of time into that they can trust are good. And all the newer games are getting just wrecked. The prices for these games are so insane right now that it's cheaper to go backwards and you're guaranteed a good time. So the gaming industry right now, like a lot of the AAA games coming out are just not very good. And in fact, even the games that are being updated in real time are getting the updates are predatory. Like these updates, these patches, these DLCs you're paying for are not valuable for the money that you're paying for. Like you're giving a bunch of money for a little bit extra, a couple levels or whatever, or pay to win kind of a mechanic that is costing them more than what the hours they're gonna entertainment they're gonna get out of it. So it's better to go backwards. The industry right now is not in a good place. Aside from standouts, like Helldivers, but is Helldivers a fluke? Or was it intentionally going? It made a game that felt like you were going backwards, that you were playing a game 10 years ago, but with graphics today. And that's what the industry needs to do.
Yeah, Odin, a lot has been made about Disney's financial woes. And back when they first acquired Star Wars, Bob Iger made it very clear. He's like, Disney is not in the business of making video games. And he instantly licensed out the exclusive Star Wars video game license to everyone's favorite video game company, EA. And now that he's back in the driver's seat, he's like, you know what? Maybe I was a little bit too hasty with the video game stuff, because that seems to be very popular with the young people nowadays. So he basically revoked the exclusive license from EA and opened it up to a lot of other people. And Ubisoft is the one who is developing this Star Wars Outlaws game. So do you think that Disney's new shift in focus to include gaming in their overall brand strategy is a good one?
Well, it has the potential to be, but because Bob Iger and so many of these people are still the ones behind the decision making, I think it's probably going to end up, if I have to go based off of what they've done with the movies, which they drove into the ground and they destroyed the IP. You've seen it also with the books as well. I mean, I know I have a lot more interest in what they're doing as far as, reproducing all of the old EU novels with updated voice acting and things like that. I mean, I think there's probably a lot more money to be had there for them than with any of their new High Republic nonsense. And so I think to myself, right, man, this is a great opportunity. Like they obviously could have really taken advantage of this, but because now that they are licensing it out to so many different places, that means that you're going to have a flooded market of several probably half-baked video games that are asking for way too much money. In this specific case, like everything you were telling me about this story just was driving me crazy, because I already have issue typically with how much video games cost in general, but then I think about, okay, was it worth spending the $60, $70 to get Tears of the Kingdom for Zelda and Nintendo, right? And I think absolutely it was, because of how much time you spend in game, how much time they spent to develop that game, right? And that's the thing, is that there's the games that are worth that money are the ones that they spend that time on, when they actually will have such a passion about their project that they care about every little detail. They care about the lore of the game. They care about the gameplay itself. And also, you can play those games without having to be online. And that's like the other thing too, right? Because it's one thing if you have to be online the first time to like verify that it's you, right? To try to stop piracy. Like, I guess I can get that to an extent, but to do it every single time, to not be able to play anything, like now imagine that your internet goes out for a little bit and you can't do anything else and you want to play a video game. Guess what? You can't play that one because if you have no internet connection, you can't do it.
Also, so that you can't really resell them. Wasn't that a big part of this thing?
Guys, I have to
Oh my god!
I don't know what's going on. I thought you unplugged it.
I just turned it off.
Brian had to smoke a bowl
I
because he got high.
It looks like his house is on
It's unplugged, bro. It just keeps going. It's like it heated up.
Outside.
I can't. It's built into my deck.
Open a window.
I unplugged. I'm
a
just
whole
waiting for
bastard now.
my windows are welded shut, bro.
Back up, Tear it back up.
It's like
I turned it. I unplugged it, but
As
the
Odin
heating
was
element is
talking-
still hot, so it's just spitting out all kinds
As
of
Odin
fucking
was
smoke.
talking, it's just more and more smoke.
He's trying to blame
I
it.
don't know what to
You
do, man.
You're just rubbing it in on 420. This is rude.
I'm not doing this on purpose. This is
Oh my God, Brian.
Just rude.
It's not even good smoke.
bro. It's a cheap smoke machine. I think the heating element got superheated, and it's just now just pouring into my room, bro.
I don't know. My goodness.
All right.
Stick it
well,
outside.
sorry.
I don't know.
Sorry for the
Vader-
distraction, Odin.
Yeah, Vader.
Yeah.
So this is a single-player Star Wars game
Uh-huh.
that has season passes and DLCs and stuff like that.
How does that make sense?
You've recently gotten into Helldivers 2,
Sure.
and you've been enjoying that along with Alex and a
Mhm.
couple other people in the community. So how do you think a game like this pulls in gamers where you have something like Helldivers 2 that genuinely like has like very small microtransactions that people don't mind paying for and kind of like fund that game, as opposed to this game that has like, $30 season passes and like $120 like gold editions and things of that nature?
Yeah, I don't know how people support a game like this. I don't really have a problem with them charging for downloadable content, but I mean, this is stuff that's available at the launch of the game. Jesus, Brian, I don't know what to say to that guy.
He has a problem.
I hate it when I lose my train of thought. But I have a personal rule when it comes to video games. I refuse to pay full price. I just won't. I won't do it unless something's gifted to me, which happens every once in a while. But I don't really have a huge issue with digital content. I haven't owned a DVD player in like probably 5 or 6 years. I got a whole shelf full of DVDs that I can watch anytime I want by pushing a button on my computer or on my TV. So I don't have a huge issue with that. And I'm never going to live in a place personally where I don't think I'm not going to have an internet connection. So, and if the grid gets taken out, none of us are going to get to use any of our stuff anyway. So the whole physical media thing, I get it. I support it, but I don't personally have the funds to go out and buy a DVD of everything I want to own a copy of or the game. So I really actually like the whole digital thing. It doesn't bother me at all. I just have a rule where I will not pay full price for anything. I don't buy these big AAA games. I'm not going to go spend $70, but I might spend $20 at the Christmas sale or the spring space sale on Steam. I have a list of almost 30 games on this thing over here that I'm looking at, and I can get probably 7 of them right now for less than 50% off. Or for 50% off or more. And so, that's just me. I get it. I get the physical media thing. I love Tom's collection behind him. I'm a little bit envious. I'm not going to lie. It's awesome, but I don't have the space or the money to support something like that. So the digital thing, I like. It doesn't bother me at all. My computer doesn't even have a disc player in it. Didn't come with the DVD or CD drive.
Yeah, I don't have a CD drive either.
Yeah, I built mine without a DVD too. At no point.
The days of burning CDs and stuff. That's so early 2000s. Who does that stuff anymore? I don't know. I come from a world where we we push the 2 buttons on the cassette player when we're listening to the radio after you call and request a song. Tom probably remembers those days.
What? But, why would you push 2 buttons?
You got to push play and record at the same time, so the tape plays while you record it. Remember?
And pause. You have it already paused. So you're ready. You just that way it's just one button.
I don't remember any of that. I guess you guys are older than me.
As soon as they get done, now here's Britney Spears with "Hit Me One More Time."
Well, I
but
guarantee you it was easier than controlling your smoke machine.
Yeah.
But I understand where Matt's coming from. But like the digital thing, just remember, guys, you don't own any of that. Just keep that in mind.
No,
I'm not pushing the button.
You have to go into it knowing that they can delete this stuff anytime they want. And I haven't heard of a whole lot of cases where where this has happened. I'm more worried about China hackers pushing a button and taking everything down, and that's what I'm more worried about. But and it could happen. Who knows?
I try not to think like that.
Try not to think like that.
There's been a few incidences, but
I have this thing
and stuff that I know of.
It's a USB Blu-ray ripper, and it was like $60, and you can just rip all your own media and drop it onto a Plex server.
Yep.
Right.
I think
I've got a built-in one and a
too,
portable.
Brian?
What?
I was going to say, does that thing smoke too?
I think the thing that bugs me the most about this
Apparently.
game is that, like, this is something that we have been asking for. This is the problem, right? So this is a time period right in between Empire and Return. It's War of the Bounty Hunters. This was like one of the most popular comic strands ever. And they gave it to us, but the problem is they took the concept and they flipped it on its head. That's the problem. It's like, okay, this is what you want. Fine, we're going to give it to you. And then they Disney-fy it. And you're like, dude, you were this close to making a gangbuster game. Why?
Yeah, Kadish asked, what I'm thinking about this game, and I don't really think a lot about this game because I'm just not going to play it. I never had any intention of playing it, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to give Disney more money than I absolutely have to, and I'm not interested in watching some regurgitated video game with Vinny Barbarino and his droid running around the outer rim. So
if this wasn't a Star Wars licensed game, nobody would be playing.
No,
at all.
Absolutely not.
Real quick, we gotta get some super chats. We got Jillian N gifting 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships, keeping her title as the queen of gifted memberships. Thank you, Jillian. Really appreciate you. And of course, we got the Gatekeepers Dymo for $2. I heard XWING eats corn.
That's not even our meme. That's a completely different community's meme. What come on, Daimyo, you can do better.
And we got Foxhound for £199. Let's talk about Star Wars and everyone's size.
This is true.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how it goes on the Salty Saturday show. Late Night with Cap podcast, JT Gunn, a member for 14 months. That is a long membership. Thank you, JT. Hey, nerds. Hey, JT.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
What's up,
We
JT?
got Big Rob for $5 on good authority. Heard X-Wing sits when he pees.
There's a lot of dudes trying to watch me pee. I don't know what's going on there. Rob, you might need to do some introspection. I don't know.
But I think it depends on where he sits when he pees. That's the
the question. Yeah.
On Brian's chest. Yes.
Brian, you need to log off. You're gonna get
people pay extra for that.
You're gonna get COPD or something, dude.
I'm fine, bro. I'm fine.
If there are any Legion of Memers watching, you got to clip that part where Brian's smoke machine just went out of control.
Yeah,
it became sentient and got a life of its own.
My window, because I'm next to a freeway, it's literally welded shut with all his sound insulation and all that, and I had to tear all that out just to open the window. But we're good now.
All right, Mexican Iron Man for $9.99. Weekly patronage to Panel and Mr. Kadish while on vacation. Love you all, but I gotta say I'm having so much fun. I don't want to come back. Oh wait, I forgot. I'm not a YouTuber. LOL. Well, you're welcome to come back.
You're the best YouTuber.
Thanks, Mike.
He's a YouTuber's YouTuber.
And we got Eric Winberg gifting 1 Salty Nerd podcast membership. Thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate that. Late Night with Cap JT Gunn for $2. Call 911. Ha ha ha.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I'm surprised one of your neighbors hasn't called it yet. The smoke coming out of his house.
I was gonna say a cop driving by or something.
You have some old lady I know it's 4:20, but this is ridiculous.
Yeah, someone's having a party.
Smoke weed every day.
Darth Maul's lower half, a member for 4 months. Thank you, Darth Maul. I checked out of Jedi Survivor when they put references to the High Republic into it. I have no desire to buy any new Star Wars game. Keep playing Battlefield 2, EA.
Empire at War.
Empire at War. Okay.
I would rather play Lawnmower Simulator than any Star Wars game right now.
I was so pissed off when they pulled in the High Republic to Survivor because that was my last bastion when they did the first Jedi game. I was like, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. It's not great. It's clearly an EA game, but it's not bad. And then Survivor came out and they just basically make the Night Witch super OP Superman that drags a Jedi along with her as she accomplishes great feats of strength and agility. And I'm like, fuck this shit, I'm out. So done. Excuse my French.
You're good.
All right. And we got Danny the Dork Knight, who has become a YouTube member. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate that. And then we have Nightmare for $5. DRM digital or DRM free digital, like GOG, is better than physical. You can make all the backups you want and not worry about a broken disc. Well, that's
good old games. That's a good site. Everybody should check that out.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I've heard about
from
that
site. Yeah.
Don't even read it. Don't even.
Then
read
we
it.
have.
I've been getting hankering to play Oregon Trail again.
Yeah.
Oh, I died of dysentery.
We got the Dork Knight for $5.
Never says that.
S&P, acknowledge me. So we
Nope.
acknowledge Danny the Dark Knight.
It never says you died of dysentery. It says your name died of dysentery. So like, if you're playing, it'll be like X-Wing died of dysentery.
That's right.
I just
Well,
I thought it was funny I saw that.
Yeah, Tom, you know who should die of dysentery?
Oh gosh,
is
Grace Randolph. Oh,
Alan Ritchson apparently hates cops and half the country. This is one of those things where it's like, you know, you shouldn't meet your heroes, basically. But the famous actor who is in the recent movie Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and
try
is
saying
also,
that 5 times fast.
Yeah, is also the new Reacher in the Amazon TV series, and he's been in the Fast and Furious movies.
So Reacher's proven to be more of a reach around, huh?
There you go.
Yeah, so basically the actor who up to this point was kind of had his fan base leaning from the middle to the right has come out as a complete lefty lunatic who suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, a bunch of other stuff. So he came out on social media, and what he did basically was he basically came out against police officers in the case of this woman who was an innocent woman. She was killed during a police raid using what's called a no-knock warrant, which people like Senator Rand Paul have been very much against. And it was a very tragic incident. But the way he went about talking about it is he basically said cops can kill anyone they want and get away with it, which if you were following George Floyd, that's just not the case. But he basically badmouthed the police. And the police came back at him, the Fraternal Order of Police, which is the police unions. And they basically said, like, you play a fake hero on TV. We are actual heroes. We don't get shot at with blanks. We get shot at with bullets. You're a pussy is basically what they called him. And then Alan Ritchson comes out, and he not only fires back at them, but he calls Trump a con man and a rapist. And then he starts talking about he starts bad mouthing Christians, and he basically says that there's no one more vitriolic than Christians, and he claims to be a Christian. He has a whole YouTube channel
while having TDS like a mofo. Like that's the funniest thing about
Hyper
it.
brain worms.
Yeah. So what's funny about this is like he's like a Joe Biden Christian, where he's like, I'm Christian except on stuff like abortion and gay rights and all this other stuff. And so he basically characterizes Christians as people who are just the most toxic people on the planet because they don't happen to agree that homosexuality is okay and killing babies is okay and all this other stuff. So as the big Christian authority on the panel, or I should say Catholic authority, Odin, I wanted to get your take on this. Do you think that Alan Ritchson is a good Christian boy?
No.
That timing was chef's kiss.
Well, he owns it, so.
I don't. Because in Catholicism, we refer to it as cafeteria Catholicism, where people are like, oh, I like this teaching and this teaching, but I don't really like that teaching. And what's worse is for someone like him, where he's probably like more non-denominational, right? There's no clear entity that
those were Lutherans.
For the cafeteria kind.
Yeah, sorry, it was a bad joke.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's okay. It's okay. I understood to a point. But no, I look to this, and especially because he's probably non-denominational, especially my question ultimately comes down to is, okay, so where in the world does your faith come from? Because it has to have some reference to scripture. And if there's any reference to scripture, then much of what you are trying to quote unquote hold to does not actually hold water whatsoever. So yeah, it drives me crazy when people will call themselves Christians and then will go off to say the most anti-Christian things. Not to mention the way in which he's now gone after police, etc. It's like, it's one thing if you're having constructive criticism, it's another to just kind of go off the rails as he seems to be doing. So very, very upsetting to hear because obviously a big fan of Reacher. And I am someone where I can separate art from the artist. I just saw the Ministry of, I keep on saying the Ministry of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. And I really liked it a lot. And I thought that he was pretty good in it too. But hey, at the end of the day, it's still really sad to see because there aren't too many Hollywood actors that at least don't seem like they are crazy lefties. He was one that seemed like he might just be somewhat normal, like kind of like a Chris Pratt, because Chris Pratt, I don't really think of him as like a mega conservative, but also it's like he seems normal. And I thought that this guy was too, but apparently, nope, sadly not.
Yeah, X-Wing. So Ritchson is dipping his toe in the pool of political commentary, especially because this is an election season, and I think that he's in a weird way trying to promote his movie by being controversial or whatever. But this is one of those situations where he created a big fan base around his portrayal of Reacher. And up to that point, people didn't really know who he was. He'd been like a bit player and a bunch of other things. And so now that he's got this established fan base of people who liked Reacher because it wasn't woke, it was kind of like a throwback to like those 80s movies where you had like a muscular, tough, main character, and you just watched him dispense indiscriminate justice for 8 to 12 hours. But now with this, do you think that this is going to either hurt his rising star, or is it going to be something where he attracts a different fan base of more wokies?
No, I don't think it's going to work at all. So sometimes you shoot yourself in the foot. Sometimes you point a 12 gauge at your toe and just blow all of your foot off. I think that's what just happened, because what kind of crowd are you trying to attract?
Right.
Because like Odin said, like kind of a pick and choose fair weather Christian that's also democratic, but you're not really playing to your strengths at any point there. You're pissing off one group of people and you're pissing off another group of people. Personally, I'm super bummed. I didn't read the article because I wanted to hear what you guys had to say. I've been a fan of Alan for a long time. Blue Mountain State was like one of my favorite shows in the world.
Oh, I loved it.
Thad was one of the funniest characters I think that's ever existed on TV. Absolutely hilarious. And then Reacher comes out, and again, like Odin said, I kind of felt like there was this coalition of like men in Hollywood that were starting to bring Christian values. I was like, we got Chris Pratt, we got Alan Ritchson coming forward. Like, we're starting to get men back in Hollywood with core values, like good dudes back in Hollywood that aren't afraid of, cancel culture and all the crap that they'll throw at them. They'll stand in the face of it and stay strong. And then to hear that, like, no, he's just a nut job is a super bummer, because I just put out a video, like a month ago about Alan Ritchson, and I was like, thank God we got another one. Like, check out his YouTube channel. He talks about scripture. He's another fellow Christian in Hollywood. And then turns out, no, he's just a nut job. And to go after police is one of the dumbest things you can do. Like, are there bad cops out there? Yeah, 100%. But you can't just flatline an entire organization as a Hollywood actor and expect it to go well for you. No. These are people who go out every morning. They don't know if they're going to see their family when they come home. You're an actor. Like, just zip it, buddy. Zip it. This whole thing, dude, it's just upsetting. Another one bites the dust, man. Another one bites the dust. And I think a lot of people now, after seeing that, are going to be like, no, I don't like that guy. I'm not going to support that project. Whereas before, especially with Reacher, you had people singing from the mountaintops about this dude, and it's a great show, and we want to back this guy. We should support him, get him in more projects. I think this is going to backfire horrifically.
Yeah, and the thing about Reacher is that the creator of Reacher, Lee Childs, he's a huge lefty. I can't stand that guy. But I want to ask Brian. So, Brian, a big part of this article is kind of in the follow-up to the police union striking back at him. He goes full Trump derangement syndrome. In his response, he accuses Trump of being a rapist, even though, he was convicted of something against E. Jean Carroll, but they couldn't get him on rape. So like they switched it up to something a little bit more generic so that they
defamation. That was it. Defamation.
Yeah,
defamation.
Just gonna say.
And so like they're leftists keep trying to propagate this thing that Trump is a rapist, a convicted rapist, whereas that's just fake. And Alan Ritchson is obviously in that camp. So what do you think about his Trump derangement syndrome, and do you think that it's going to alienate his hardcore fan base?
I feel sorry for some of these people that they are convinced that Trump is a sexual predator, and it's because they don't do any research, and the media is to blame. Honestly, the media has we already know they have an extreme agenda against Trump and a lot of conservatives, and what they do is they blast headlines out there, and we've talked about this before, where the headlines are like Trump's sexual assault case, and then underscore or colon space guilty or whatever. And you're like, well, no. You read that actual article and you realize that he was what they got him for was defamation for complaining that the person was suing him in the first place and calling her basically, a liar.
Yeah.
So he called her a liar. She was proven to be a liar, and then when they basically let him off and said this didn't happen, so she was proven to be a liar, but then they got him for defamation because he called her a liar, which is insane logic. But if you actually read those articles, you'll see the actual story and you'll realize that he wasn't convicted of any rape or sexual assault whatsoever. But all these people are doing are reading the articles. Alan Ritchson is spending a lot of time with directors like the one you talked about and creators that have extreme brainworms. So they're just infested with Trump derangement syndrome brainworms. And I don't think he is as in the know as he is more manipulated and convinced by his friends that he's working with, friends that have an agenda. And I feel sorry for him, and I feel sorry for people like him that they think they're probably doing the right thing. They think they are convinced that of these things that they have been lied to about, they've been brainwashed of, and they're out there and they think they're the righteous ones. And in reality, they've been lied to. And it's a compound effect. They've been lied to, all the way down the row until you get to the end of the telephone and these people actually believe what they're saying. Like, he believes what he's saying. He thinks he's the righteous warrior here. In reality, he's completely and ill-informed.
It's just another Hollywood sheep.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, Matt Vader, like, it's become popular in Hollywood to basically attack the audiences who don't agree with you. And with Alan Ritchson, so like he's attacking the police, he's attacking Trump supporters, and he's attacking Christians. What do you think the strategy is here?
Well, I think Alan is going to find very quickly that his star has been tarnished all of a sudden, and his things that he's in are not going to be as well watched or as well received. I'm looking at this picture of him with his T-shirt on. It says "Arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor." I want to go make a T-shirt that just says, "I wish celebrities would just shut the fuck up and dance." That's what I want. That's what I want them to do. Why do these guys always have to do this? These people, they're popular, they're celebrities, they have good fun shows like Reacher and his other stuff. This guy could play a superhero. He's just, he's everything that's cool about Hollywood. And then he goes in here and he opens his mouth about this kind of stuff. And it's just, it's a shame. It's really sad to me that this guy just like shot himself in the foot for reasons that, just because he wanted to make some political points. And it doesn't really matter that he's scoring points with the lefties in Hollywood, because I don't think anybody's going to want to go see his stuff anymore. His numbers are going to suffer, as they should. Mm-hmm. I guess we'll go watch Hemsworth and Pratt movies some more. Mm-hmm. I don't know Chris Hemsworth's politics. I don't want to know. And that's, I don't think anybody cares about what these people's politics are until they have to vomit it out of their face. It's like, Luke Skywalker. Oh, God dang it. What's his name? Mark Hamill. I can't stand that guy anymore. I used to love Mark Hamill. You couldn't pay me to go watch something in Mark Hamill accent anymore. I just don't care. It's the same way with this kind of stuff. These people are lunatics, and it's just really sad to me that they have to do this to their careers. I wish they would just seriously shut up and dance. Entertain. Well, that's all I want you to do. Entertain me.
Speaking of dancing, Tom, it seems like Hollywood really pressures people who don't really speak out about politics to speak out about politics. Like Alan Ritchson was pretty quiet on this stuff up until recently, but then like you also have someone like Taylor Swift, who historically, like, she was just like, I don't want to talk about this stuff, and then she was kind of forced to come out against Trump and endorse Biden and stuff like that. And she's one of the biggest entertainers in the world. And historically, celebrities have just always come out for like Democrats and left-leaning individuals and things like that. So do you think that he was pressured into this? And do you think that he could be rewarded career-wise for publicly speaking out about it?
Perhaps. We all kind of know that this year coming up here is a big year. I mean, we're already this far into the year and the campaigns haven't even begun yet or anything like that. It feels like it's like really kind of odd. But that being said, yeah, I mean, they're going to definitely try to pressure, get some celebrities on their sides to go out there and talk, because not to get too political, it's pretty obvious that the guy in the office right now doesn't have a whole lot of support. Even people on his side are kind of going, yeah, well, hopefully we can keep our heads down for another 4 years and get through this, if anything, or maybe they're hoping something happens to him in the next few months. But
did you see where Joe Biden's niece took him to a bank in Brazil and tried to get a loan?
Oh yes, I saw that.
That was pretty good.
Weekend with Brandon there.
Yeah.
Anyway, like as far as Reacher, I've never seen the show, but I looked up a description of it, and I know I'm such a dumb nerd. I've never seen it. I kind of knew of it, and the description is it's an ex-military guy who has his own brand of street justice. So he's on a show about a vigilante, and he's out here talking smack about cops.
Yeah.
That is stupid.
He played a military police officer in the show.
That's what I'm saying. On top of it, also, none of this makes sense as why he's bitching. And the way he's talking, he acts like, the cops are just handed guns and they get to go willy-nilly shooting people like Danny DeVito, So I just went in blasting, like he thinks that's what they are and that's what happens. It's like, no. Do you realize, and you should know this of all people, considering you play an ex-cop, like you just said, Matt, you should know that after you pull your revolver and shoot somebody, there's a long process after that. It's not just, well, go back to work like it is in the movies and television shows, right? You get pulled from work, you get put on administrative leave for a little bit because you have to go in for all kinds of like therapy and psychology and psych evaluations and all this other shit. It is not as simplified as just boom, 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 like it is in the movies, and then you just walk away and go on with your day, right? So he's got it in his head that that's what it's like, because he's a dumb fucking movie star. That's why. And we talked a little bit about him on Toxic Femme last week, and the girls dug up all sorts of video. You know where this guy got discovered? American Idol. People don't even remember that. That's where this guy got discovered from in the first place. And he has had the dumbest takes in the world for years. People just have kind of ignored him. And now all of a sudden, why he's decided to attack cops, especially while having major, we all know they all have major TDS, right? We've seen a lot of people who seem very, intelligent, and for the most part, you think you could have a decent conversation with them until you all of a sudden bring up Trump, and they freak out like you mentioned Voldemort or something like that or whatever. I don't know. I don't watch the Harry Potter crap, but it's like, what the? Because I know you're not supposed to say his name or whatever.
Oh, but, that's right.
It's just like, it's insane. It's insane how people are doing this. And yes, everybody should have the right to speak their mind. Everybody should have the right to speak their piece. If you support somebody, go for it. You talked about even, celebrities have always been on the political side of things, right? That's true. But back in the day when I remember growing up, even when like they had MTV Rock the Vote and all that stuff, I don't remember them going out there and say, vote Bush or vote Clinton. They would just say, get out and vote, right? Specify who. And then in the last 10 years, though, it's been very extremely lefty hit, and which, when I was on the left, I didn't really notice it as much. Now I notice how bad it is because the left left me, right? As some people will probably relate to that. I mean, I've always been somebody who's been rather liberal. I mean, I agree. Most people have human rights. I mean, most gay rights fall under human rights. So, I mean, I don't understand why they need extra rights. I mean, even most people in the church will agree that fine, let them have the right to be together. They just don't have to force churches to marry them. They can go get married by the state or whatever. Yeah. And most will just turn a blind eye to that and not care. Or they, at least it's a compromise or however you want to put it. But at the end of the day, it's this incessant need to just interject everything into everything. And why are you even talking about this if you're a Reacher, right? Like the last thing you should be doing is talking about police officers and stuff like that. I mean, what's his face who plays Punisher on Netflix, Bernthal. Like, I think he was asked a little bit about the cop stuff because he was doing the show right during the whole, BLM stuff. And I think he just said some really minor positive things about police officers. He just talked about how, they were big fans of the character and stuff like that. So, he didn't really say anything otherwise. Like, that's what you do, right? You don't need to, right? It'd be like going out and saying, most doctors are assholes. Why did you just say that? Like, I mean, because the other thing is are most cops assholes? No, not really. Is there a small percentage that are? Yes. Are those the ones we hear the most about? Yes. We don't hear about all the ones that save lives on a daily basis, right? I watch a lot of cop videos on YouTube, and I have a lot of cops in the family. In fact, they don't even like to be called cops; they like to be called police officers, just for point. But that being said, like, you watch these videos, and for every one time that a cop screws up, there's a dozen other times where you're like, I can't believe that guy just didn't shoot him, you know, because they're just like, they're putting up with so much crap and so patient with some of these people that you have to have the patience of a saint sometimes to deal with some of the crap the cops do. Yep. So yeah, anyway, cut me off here. Yeah. He just needs to shut his mouth. He's losing his audience. It's dumb.
Yeah. Agreed. We support law enforcement here on the Salty Saturday Show. But before we get into this, we're going to be talking about Sydney Sweeney in just 1 second. But first, I want to mention some of our super thanks, people who dropped super thanks in our comments on our previous live streams. So we're going to be doing this new thing where we read super thanks on the show. And big shout out to Astro Nerd Boy, who dropped 2 super thanks over the course of the last couple of weeks. So Astro Nerd Boy on our OJ stream said, in 1 year, I need to head over and do the Friday Night Tights meetup while at the same time visiting you guys. Also, the Naked Gun movies are hilarious. They are hilarious. Thank you, Astro Nerd Boy, for $5 super thanks. And for another $5, during our Drea De Matteo live stream, he said, sorry, I don't get to catch these live much anymore, but that's what the video on demand is for, So really appreciate that. And we also have a $20 super thanks from Scotty Dub. Nice. That says, very well done installment, gents. Great discussion on the smoking crater that is the Hollywood business. So if you guys want to let us know what you think of Alan Ritchson, and if you want to still support him, drop us super thanks in the comments of this video, and we will read them on the next Salty Saturday. Really appreciate all the support you guys give us. Speaking of support, we got another super chat from the Dork Knight for $5. I would like to acknowledge Odin for throwing up the 1 and acknowledging the true Salty Nerd Podcast Tribal Chief.
Couldn't go all the way with it.
I feel like
I appreciate
it's come back. I feel like this cold I have is in the chat now.
Infected the chat.
Mr.
Tickle Trunk for $5 Canadian. Actors do this all the time and regurgitate the Hollywood mantra when looking for work. I'd bet $100 that Alan Ritchson's just trying to get hired. Well, that could be the case. And we have 5 gifted Salty Nerd Podcast memberships from Major Chai Chai, helping us hit our goal for the live stream. Tom, do you have an applause that we can give Major Chai Chai for helping us? Thank you. Excellent work, guys. Thank you so much for all the support and the free gifted memberships. And speaking of support, we're going to be like supporting Hollywood like Sydney Sweeney's bra supports her ample bosom, right? Let's talk about Hollywood hating on Sydney Sweeney.
Oh my God. That segue.
Go to Odin first. A
little bit of a tortured segue there. I apologize. All right. So Sydney Sweeney got ragged on by a producer named Carol Baum, who is kind of a big deal because she helps teach the next generation of filmmakers at USC or UCLA, one of those 2 film schools. And basically she said that Sydney Sweeney isn't pretty, she can't act, and she doesn't understand why she's in movies. And this comes after she watched her independently produced rom-com. And, Sydney Sweeney, ever since Madam Web, she was like the one good thing that kind of came out of Madam Web. And she's been blowing up. We've seen her in that horror movie where she plays the pregnant nun. And then she has this rom-com of hers. And Carol Baum didn't like it. And basically, she was recorded in one of her classes teaching the future generation of filmmakers in Hollywood.
Can I go as far as to say that Sydney Sweeney is the only person who have had a successful flop?
Yeah, that's right. But she basically said to her class, explain this girl to me. She's not pretty. She can't act. Why is she so hot? Nobody in her class had an answer. But I think a lot of that is simply because a lot of people in her class are probably like blue-haired lesbians that don't understand what men find attractive.
Or that one kid in the back didn't want to fail the class. He wanted to be like, we're kids.
Yeah, exactly. And then they asked the question, well, if you could get your movie made because she was in it, would you do it? And everyone was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can support the male gaze like that.
Wow.
But it was your typical, like, what do they call it, struggle session in Hollywood, where it's like you have this very popular actress who's popular because she's embracing the fact that men find her attractive.
Good for her.
And all like the old biddy liberal lesbians out there are like, ugh, how dare she? So I wanted to get your guys' take on it, because I made a joke on Twitter not too long ago that if you want to get people to watch your video, you just put Sydney Sweeney on the thumbnail.
Easy.
We did for this video, yeah.
Either that, just so you know.
Yeah. So
A lesbian would treat a woman like that.
XWING, let's start with you. What's your take on this? Do you think Hollywood is starting to turn on Sydney Sweeney like they kind of are turning on Chris Pratt?
No, I don't think so. Because she makes them money. So, you have to be careful. I think there's a line. I think if she starts coming out and says anything remotely red, they'll probably dump her like a hot sack of potatoes. But yeah, I simply don't understand the backlash, other than from those people, the blue-haired whales specifically, because she has something that they'll never have, and they hate her for it. And of course, it draws in a guy's audience, and they're like, "Yeah, what's the Sydney Sweeney movie that's coming out? I'm going to spend half the movie looking at the bottom half of the screen." But yeah, I don't know. To be perfectly fair, I think she actually is a good actress. Everybody gets a bad break sometimes with movies that occurs, and there's no getting around it. But she took it on the chin like a champ. She didn't blame anybody else for it. She's just like, I'm an actress. I got picked to do a role, and I'm going to do a role. It wasn't this movie failed because of men and blah, blah, blah. She's just an actress. And Carol Baum, I mean, who the hell is that lady anyways? I think the only accolade she's ever gotten was a Razzie in the 90s for worst production ever. So it's not like she's standing on a whole bunch of accolades. Sydney Sweeney's already got, Emmy recommendations and, what do they call them? Emmy nominations. So she doesn't have a leg to stand on to begin with. And to be fair, I think most of the guys have Sweeney's back over Carol Baum right now.
Well, Tom, you made the joke that she's the only actress to have like a successful flop. But what do you think the appeal of Sydney Sweeney is? Why is she blowing up all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, she's like that. She's something we haven't had in a while. I mean, Christina Hendricks is probably the last bombshell we had, and that was a decade ago now, almost. Since they stopped allowing her to be a bombshell then because she was a woman in redhead and all that business. No, she naturally happened. They can't stop her. And if anything, this just comes off like some Mean Girl shit more than anything. Like she's just jealous that she never made it. It's like, sorry that you're teaching acting instead of actually doing it. Sucks. But nobody's more meaner to pretty girls than other women. Let's be real. Mm-hmm. We know how that is. So in this case, that's what I'm seeing here. And she's got called out a little bit for it. A lot of people have noted that she's an Emmy-winning actress and she's had a pretty successful career. And honestly, she's one of the closest things we got to a movie star again. Because a lot of these ones that keep trying to make movie stars never are. You can push a Zendaya and all these people, but is Zendaya going to open a movie this weekend? We'll find out. Because I think isn't it this weekend that a new movie opens up or next weekend? But then, it's rare that you get an actor like that actually gets made as a movie star.
When was the last time you heard the term Hollywood bombshell, Tom?
Forever. Like probably Christina Hendricks. Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like we haven't had a Marilyn Monroe type in a while. Yeah.
Hollywood
Angelina Jolie probably before that, but yeah.
Hollywood used to embrace everything that Sydney Sweeney is. And now that she's trying to bring that back a little bit, it's like you got all these crazy left-wing weirdo Hollywood people that are like, I don't know about this. This might not be the way to go. But she's just all she's doing is bringing back the old blonde bombshell with the nice chest trope back. I don't have any issue with it personally.
Cameron Diaz wasn't that great of an actress either. But you know what people liked about her? She was a blonde bombshell. She was like a Marilyn. She walked in the room and everybody's eyes went right to her, right? Like that was what she had.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you, Vader. What do you think Sydney Sweeney's appeal is?
She's good looking. She's hot. She's embracing it. She's the Amaranth of Hollywood. That right now is what she is. You know, and she knows it, and she's just taking advantage of her current popularity, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't ever hear anything about her politics involved. It's just her doing things to promote her stuff with her cleavage hanging out. It's
well,
fine.
I have heard
Whatever.
some of her politics, or at least they assume she's right. That's the
Oh,
problem.
why? Because she's good looking, and
well, her family actually has been known to support Trump, I guess. So they just assume that she does. Kind of like with Chris Pratt, right? Like they just assume just because.
I mean, if there's any business in the world where it's okay to just flaunt your hotness, it should be being an actress in Hollywood. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
right?
agreed.
That's why a guy like the dude we just got done talking about,
Alan Ritchson.
Alan Ritchson, he's a good looking dude. He should be doing the same thing. Look at my muscles. I'm going to go make action movies.
He was for that,
and then he opened his mouth and
he make action movies.
He's done. None of us on this panel are going to give a shit about what that guy does going forward. But we're all going to go watch the next Sydney Sweeney movie unless she opens her mouth and starts regurgitating the same nonsense that he is. But no, I think she's just embracing her hotness, and she's popular right now. And 6 months from now, it'll probably be all over. And we'll be talking about something else, but
Brian, I think a lot of the criticism that the Hollywood people are leveling at Sydney is the fact that she's embracing her sexiness. She's embracing the fact that dudes are into her, that men find her attractive. She's embracing essentially the male gaze. Right. And that's something that these fourth wave feminists have been fighting against for like decades now. And they're surprised and they're upset that it's actually working for her. So I want to get your take on this. Do you think that Sydney Sweeney's strategy is the right one, and that she's going to benefit from all this attention?
Yeah, because who cares about Hollywood critics? Like, who cares about this extremely tiny percentage of extremely loud people? Like, no one. The people that really matter in Hollywood are the people that go to watch movies, is the fan base. And this very loud, extremely loud minority of individuals complaining about anything remotely masculine, remotely classical, classic femininity, remotely traditional, they don't actually run anything. They don't actually control whether or not something's successful. The people that control the success of something are the people that are spending their money to watch it. And the money's going to run out eventually for a lot of these studios. It's already happening. You can buck the system all you want and complain about the fans and create content that the fans don't want to see all you want. Eventually the money's going to run out and you're going to have to go the other way. And we're seeing that with a lot of actors and actresses that have gotten their fans back by being reasonable and embracing what the fans like. And guess what? People like Sydney. I don't know if she's a great actress. I'm not going to say that. But she's good enough. She's hot. She embraces the fact that she's hot. She doesn't say insane nonsense. She stays in her lane, and she has no problem making fun of herself or making fun of the system. And a lot of people like her for that. And I miss those days. I miss the days where people were actors and actors. I mean, when all people in Hollywood TV shows and movies were actually attractive. Now, you turn on a new streaming series, no matter what anyone says about it. Oh, look at Succession! What a wonderful show! It's beautiful. Look at it. It's so well crafted. What a crazy finale. I'm like, I turn on one episode. I'm like, why is everyone so goddamn ugly?
Yeah,
everyone's so ugly. Everyone in this show is ugly, and you look at every one of these new shows. Everyone is so ugly. You're like, where did all the pretty people go? Like, I see ugly people all the time. I look in the mirror, I see an ugly person. I want to see an attractive person. And you know what? Sydney Sweeney's giving us that back. So screw the haters, man.
Odin, a lot of this criticism from Carol Baum came from her watching Anyone But You, which was actually produced by Sydney Sweeney, as well as it was a starring vehicle for her. And it's been super, super successful, at least, for Sydney Sweeney. And the minute that Carol Baum said like Sydney Sweeney's not pretty, I think a lot of men out there were just kind of like, wait, what? And you know, you contrast actresses like Sydney Sweeney with, like, let's just say Brie Larson, right? Which Brie Larson, she's a pretty attractive woman physically, but the minute she opens her mouth, like you get revulsed by her. Whereas Sydney Sweeney's been kind of like embracing the fact that dudes are into her, and she's just being kind of like sweet and nonchalant about it, where it's like, oh, thank you for thinking I'm pretty, type thing. So how do you think that this is going to shape up for her? Do you think that Hollywood's going to continue to come after her, or do you think that her fan support's going to carry her through all these criticisms?
It's so hard to say, because it's in today's world, she could come out today and say something, and then all of a sudden anything that we say today will be completely irrelevant. So it really all just depends on what happens, on, you know, the things that continue to go on, you know, how her career continues to go on. Because I will say, like, in general, I don't care too much about the conversation, only because I'm not a big fan of hers in general. I've only ever seen her in Madam Web, and Madam Web was awful, and it was not, you know, it's obviously not her fault that the performances weren't great by any but the people in there. So I don't really have a lot to gauge that off of. I had no interest in anyone but you. So I'm definitely not this target demographic, because, again, you all know me. I'm all for thinking that we shouldn't be looking at people as objects, you know, and I think that that's something that if people were actually going to provide good, legitimate criticism, it would be that versus what this female producer is doing, where it's like, you know, come on, lady, like, get over yourself. And also get over the fact that, you know, even though I'm not a big fan of hers, and I have no, you know, not because of anything other than I just haven't seen her in enough to really form an opinion about her as an actress, what I can say is that her film Anyone But You did better than what anyone expected to do at the box office. It made 8.6 times its budget, which is something that most films today can't even ever hope to get to, ever could even dream to get to. And the only films that woman produced that I had any real knowledge of that I had seen was the Father of the Bride movies from back in the 90s. It's like, I like those movies, but okay, what have you really done lately? And it just, as you said, right, it just comes across as someone who's just very bitter, and someone who wishes that they were doing more than just teaching. Is kind of how that comes across. And especially to say that in a classroom with students, it just comes across as also very unprofessional as well, seeing that she's still listed as a producer, right? As an active producer, right, as someone who's active in Hollywood. It's just a very unprofessional thing for her to say in a classroom setting where you're dealing with young adults, people who are, you know, easily manipulated, someone whose mind is easily influenced. And so based on one of the articles, at least the headlines, it seems like she's kind of regretted herself saying that, probably because of the backlash more so than anything else.
Yeah, she sounds like a jealous dickhead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right, guys, what do you think
I didn't
about
hear a single thing that Odin said. I was distracted by the puppy the whole time.
Yeah, I know. She's
stretches.
in her chair. Yeah.
All right, guys, what do you think of Sydney Sweeney and and Hollywood's campaign against her? Let us know in the super thanks of this video. We will read them on the next episode. Guys, speaking of jealous dickheads and untalented people, why don't we talk a little bit about Zack Snyder and his 6 Rebel Moon movies?
No!
6 Rebel Moon movies, and 3 of them are director's cuts.
Make it stop.
By the guy already making it. Just make the movie right the first time.
Yeah, no, guys, Brian, that's 12 Rebel Moon movies right there.
Sorry, guys, I didn't do the first 6 right, but, you know, there were some problems. Let me come out with 6 more director's cuts.
Yeah. So, guys, basically, Zack Snyder has it in his head that because he made the first Rebel Moon into 2 parts, every one of his fans expects every new Rebel Moon movie to be 2 movies. And he wants to do a trilogy. He wants to do a trilogy of Rebel Moon movies, which equates to 6 movies, which means that he doesn't know what a trilogy actually is. But he has 6 movies kind of like planned out. And instead of making them into like a TV series for some reason, he's like, no, I'm going to do 2 movies per part. It's going to be 6 movies. And, it's kind of funny because there's this interview clip of him going around on Twitter where he's talking about how, oh, it's okay if you don't like my movies, but like, would you rather have like like a good movie, or would you rather have a movie that's influenced by focus groups? And it's like, you know, Zach, if you listen to focus groups a little bit more, maybe your movies would be better. But he's so tone deaf, he's so checked out. So many people ragged on the first Rebel Moon, and now that the sequel has come out, a lot of people are saying it's even worse than the first one. So I wanted to get the panel's take on this. Odin, do you think Netflix would actually go for 6 more Rebel Moon movies?
It all depends on their numbers. I mean, I typically don't, because it's so hard to follow streaming numbers, because you have to usually take whatever data you do get with a giant grain of salt, because they're very protective with whatever information they usually give out. So if it's good for them, like if it boosts their numbers and it seems to be something that's profitable for them, you know, because if you think about it, whether it be people who are flocking because they want to see it because they love it, or people who are flocking because they just want to see the train wreck that is Rebel Moon, if either of them is actually working for them, it could be worth it. But for me, I look at it, I think I don't see how you could how you could possibly say that it's successful for them. When you look at the nonsense numbers that Zack Snyder said, like he tried to claim that the first film, you know, would have made X amount of money if you base it off of certain information. It was like, this is the worst math I've ever seen. I mean, like,
he said,
what are you doing?
1.6 billion.
Yeah. And I'm like, bro, like, if you honestly think that amount of people would have gone to see that movie in theaters physically, you are insane. And so I look at that for that, you know, for that reason. But then also, like, when he says something like that, right, where it's like, would you rather this or that? I think, look, stop trying to be Scorsese. Like, honestly, it seems like he's like, well, Scorsese said a really great line about theme parks and movies. So I'm going to try to say something similar, try to act like more like I'm an auteur. And it's like, bro, you're not an auteur. You're a garbage filmmaker. I hate the fact that there are still people that will go to bat for you after all the nonsense you've done on screen and off screen. And all I can think of is, man, I hope this guy just goes into obscurity. Like, seriously, go ahead and make your films by yourself, because that's the only person you're making these for. Honestly, it seems like you're making these for yourself and your hardcore group of cult fans. And it's like, y'all go ahead and make your own streaming service. Make the Zack Snyderverse. Make it. Yeah. Go ahead and do your own thing. And then that way you can just stay there making your obscurity nonsense. And I can, you know, not be given homework every single month, it seems, because you have a new film.
You know, Tom, what's kind of funny is a lot of people very early on were kind of scared to criticize Zack Snyder about anything, simply because he had this very toxic, like vitriolic fan base that would just attack you if you ever said anything bad about Snyder. And I know that pretty much everyone on the panel who had criticism of Snyder felt the wrath of that. But what's kind of funny is that ever since it was exposed that it was a PR marketing firm that was using bots to attack critics of Zack Snyder, and he now no longer uses those. Seems like a lot more people are open to criticizing Snyder. So I wanted to ask you, how far up his own ass is Snyder right now?
So far, he probably can tell what his hair smells like. Like, I mean, whatever can I say about Zack that anybody hasn't already said? I mean, I'm with Odin on this one, or whoever. Like, basically, let him do this shit. Good. All he's doing is self-confessing that he's now a straight-to-streaming director, and nobody has any interest in him otherwise. He is, nice. As you said, he hasn't had a hit in ever. Since 300, probably, I guess, would be the last time he's had a certified hit. He has been busted. As you said, I'm somebody who knows how to stir those guys up real quick. All I got to do is just say that something is going to happen or not going to happen, and they'll freak the hell out. So yeah, no, like there is a small fan base. They are there. They're just very rabid. That's the thing, but they're not very big. And I think the proof was in the pudding when Rebel Moon Part 2 dropped, and it didn't even trend. Most people didn't even know what happened. Right? There was a lot of hype surrounding Rebel Moon 1, but I don't think it was really all that palpable at the end of the day, because I think people checked out of it. I was still waiting for the article that said the same thing about Justice League, and that was that most people checked out halfway through. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same thing, because Zack Snyder, I'm sorry, he's a perpetual 12-year-old who doesn't really know how to make a movie. Sure, he's got some visual flair, but I mean, at the end of the day, he only has one flavor, right? Like, so, I mean, get a few more flavors. Yeah, and then you bring up Scorsese, like, he's not even Scorsese's pool boy. That's how low on the podium he is. Yeah. Like, he's not even good enough to lick Scorsese's boots. He likes to think he's this big auteur director, And then you got Nolan out there stroking his ego for some dumb reason. It made me lose a lot of respect for Nolan. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know if you guys saw that or not, where he's like, Zack Snyder is like responsible and does a lot of the things that make Hollywood great and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, copycats everything. And then what he does do is garbage anyway. So at the end of the day, like if you're a Zack Snyder fan, I'm not trying to dump on you. It's fine. I'm talking about the rabid ones who just won't let you have an opinion without going, oh, you're just blah, 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 you know, and they do. Because after
Why'd you say that name?
I'll have about 3 of them coming after me probably on Twitter. So it never fails. And at the end of the day, I don't think this is a very, very big deal. I think this is about the best he's got. So he's going to try to get as much as he can.
I want to throw this to Brian. So Brian, you know, a big thing about Snyder is that, you know, he was ragging on focus groups because his claim is that it's these focus groups which told Netflix, hey, we need a PG-13 of this movie. And he was like, I had swearing and offbeat stuff and nudity and full sex scenes and all this other stuff. I was going to go wild with Rebel Moon, but no, Netflix's focus groups told me that we needed a PG-13. So I did a PG-13 version that was all for focus groups, and that's what the critics don't like. But once they see my real movie, everyone's going to be blown away. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, if that's the case, why didn't Netflix just put out the real movie first and then offer up like an alternative, like a TV cut? Yeah. So do you think that the director's cuts of the Rebel Moon movies are actually going to be better than what we've gotten so far?
No. Oh no. So this movie that is the same story has more of the rape scene. Great. That doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a fan of the Snyder Cut, the Justice League Snyder Cut. I love that movie. Like, I love all 4 hours of that movie. And I believe that there is a style to Zack Snyder that is pretty cool, but his storytelling is so bad. He's just not a very good storyteller. In fact, if he's saying that his movie could have been better if he was allowed to put all of his gnarly rape and blood and whatever in it, I'm pretty sure Netflix is rolling out that feature pretty soon, or if they're not already doing it, where you can actually skip some of those things and you can drop the rating of a movie. You know, you don't need a director's cut. Just release the exact one, and then, you know, you can purify it with the rater, the scale, the rater scale, whatever it's called. I think the guy I think he has a really cool story. A really cool style, but he needs someone to help him tell the story. He needs like a James Gunn or someone with the ability to tell a story.
What's his style? Taking a bunch of old movie tropes and making them go in slow motion?
No,
I mean,
he does have, he does the slow motion thing a lot, but like, look at 300, like that was a very unique style before.
Yeah, but that's a frame by frame reproduction of a popular comic book. That was a genius movie. I'm not going to deny that, but his other stuff is just
right.
It's terrible.
Yes, but his style, he took it from a comic book, but he produced that style on screen. He didn't tell a story. It wasn't his story, but it was his style that added to that story. His style made that movie better. Mm-hmm. Like if you just took that story and did it a la Gladiator, it wouldn't have been as good.
I mean, I would argue that he could have still been the cinematographer, and a different director would have done just fine.
So Vader, I want to throw this to you. So you initially were really excited about the first Rebel Moon.
Yeah, it looked cool.
You were like, I wanted something to fill the void that Star Wars left behind.
Yeah.
And then you saw the first Rebel Moon, and you're like, yeah. We're going to be talking about the second Rebel Moon on Tuesday, but I wanted to get your take on, do you think that it's a strong enough franchise to warrant 6 more movies?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. And just to be clear, when you say 6 more movies, he means he's going to make 3 movies, and each one's going to have a part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
Is that so? Okay. So no, I don't think it's strong enough. I think he needs to stop now while he's ahead, I guess. I don't know. I think he needs to go back to make more bad zombie movies, to be personally honest. I kind of like his zombie stuff. They're not bad, I can't think of the name of the movies, but anyway, I like his zombie stuff. This Rebel Moon stuff, it's literally like I just said. He's just taking tropes and basically scenes from old movies, putting new style on them, and just putting them in this movie. He's not doing anything new here, and he's just doing a lot of slow motion and a lot of weird effects, and there's nothing there to these movies. There's no substance that we haven't seen before. There's nothing new or good or redeeming. I didn't like any of the characters in this movie. I just see just a bunch of regurgitated nonsense, and I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a bad movie. 12% on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever it is. That's too high. This is a bad movie, and he needs to quit kidding himself. He how can he sit there and stare at a reporter's face and talk about how great his movies are? He has to know these are bad movies, and that we have to endure another 8 hours of these two movies being remade in director's cut. I don't know. I don't think I can. I don't think I want to.
He doesn't know that these are bad movies. He thinks that they are brilliant movies. And I want to throw this to XWING because, Rebel Moon was sold as the new Star Wars. This was going to be the new sci-fi franchise that was going to basically take over the landscape and make all the Star Wars fans happy because they finally got something that they could sink their teeth into instead of all the bull crap that Star Wars has been pumping out. Now, as our resident Star Wars aficionado here, what do you think of that? And is it still something that you think people are saying?
No. Look, so it's tough, man, because you want to try to put it up against something like A New Hope and try to make a comparison and say, this is what A New Hope did. This is what Rebel Moon does. The problem is that his style of storytelling is legitimately like a 12-year-old kid in a bathtub that's talking about his favorite movies in the 80s, right? That's right. All he does. So he's somewhere in between like Robert Rodriguez and Michael Bay with no ability to tell stories. So essentially what he's doing is he's remembering all his favorite things from his movies and then putting them into his movie and then just putting a whole shitload of CG and slow-mo on it and calling it the new Star Wars. But there's nothing that actually upholds any of the stuff that he's doing. There's no structure. There's no base. There's nothing to make us like the characters. There's nothing to give us any kind of lasting sense of emotion when watching it at all. The whole thing is an absolute flop. The fact that they even got 2 out, I'm kind of surprised because as a Star Wars fan, you'd think I would be innately just attached to this project and stoked on it, but it's so vapid, it's so dry. There's nothing to hold on to. It's terrible. It's horrible. And the fact that people are coming forward and even saying that this warrants a part 3 or a second movie or anything, not to mention 6,
that's crazy, bro.
Is beyond me because there's nothing there.
Need 2.
Yeah. So to me, big no. I don't like the movies. And it's funny. I actually watched it twice because I fell asleep the first time I watched it. I think I was just tired. Second time I watched it, I got out and I was done. And about a week later, I don't even remember what the story was. I couldn't tell you what it was about. I know that there's a strong lady on a farming planet with dual sunset that's upset, and then there's space Yahtzees, and that's pretty much where we're at.
According to him, it is the Seven Samurai meets Star Wars in space. Now just think about that for a minute.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Star Wars is already in
to
space, you moron.
Right?
The fact that we're talking about 6 more movies of this crappy franchise and we can't get a second Jupiter Ascending sequel is really upsetting to me.
Yeah, where's my Jupiter Ascending?
This time
Stop trying to make it a thing.
Matt. This is the
Jupiter
one time
Ascending
he brought it up
too.
that I agree with him. Like he's got a point.
Oh, guys, so Matt Vader mentioned Rotten Tomatoes, but here on Salty Saturdays, we don't support the Rotten Tomatoes score. We support
damn right
the Critic
That's what I
List
was gonna bring
score.
up. Yep.
And on Critic List right now, the audience
Too
score for part 2 is bogus at 29%, which I
Too
agree
high.
with Vader. It's probably too high.
Yep.
But
Just
let
2
us
people,
know.
I think, have given some like high praise of the film.
Well, let us know what you guys think of Rebel Moon in these super thanks in the comments. We'd love to hear your take on it, but we're also going to be talking about it on Tuesday, so be sure to tune in for that. And right now we've got Nightmare for $2. Bond movie with Cavill and Sweeney would print money. Hell yes, it would.
Yeah, it would.
I mean, that's kind of what I
certainly
thought Argyle was going to be, but no, it really wasn't.
Bring Javier Bardem back for a villain, man. He's such a good villain.
Wendy Hunter, a member for 6 months. Thank you for the support, Wendy. No, why more Rebel Moon? That's what we were thinking.
I don't think it's going to happen, dude.
I hope not.
I don't know. I think he's got a development deal with Netflix, and so like they're just going to give him money and he'll make more of them because that's what he wants to do. Then we got Fluffy Panda for $2. I'd rather watch Brian sort cranberries. I think we all would.
Yeah, that's actually
on a moon with space horses. Indeed.
Oh,
Weird.
Dumbest design too. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna change the face. That's it. Just the face. That's it. Oh, okay.
Just the face.
Really dumb.
All right, guys. Well, speaking of movies, let's talk a little bit about Quentin Tarantino and his shocking decision to cancel his upcoming 10th movie. So basically, for those of you who aren't aware, Quentin Tarantino has made the pledge to only make 10 movies over the course of his career. And he's at number 10 right now. And he was going to do a movie called The Movie Critic, starring Brad Pitt, which was about a movie critic who wrote for a porno mag in the 1970s. And for some reason, Tarantino got through a couple drafts of his script for this movie. And he was like, you know what? I don't like this. I'm not going to do it. So he came out and basically said, hey, I'm not interested in doing The Movie Critic anymore. It's going to be a different movie for my final film. And a lot of people are coming out and saying like, dude, why do you just have to do 10? You know, it's okay if you do 11 or 12. You don't have to have this be your last movie. But a lot of people are now speculating, okay, now that he's decided to move on from The Movie Critic, what's his final film going to be? So, Tom, I wanted to throw this to you. Do you have any insights into, number one, why he decided to ditch this film and what he might be working on next?
All I'm going to say about Tarantino, because he's a god, Tarantino does what Tarantino does because Tarantino does what Tarantino does because he's Tarantino.
Do everything.
You don't question that. He does what he wants. Now, he must have gotten so far into this, in all serious though, I think he got so far into this story and he's just like, this just isn't the last story I want to tell right now. I wouldn't bet against this story still coming out as a book and him having just something else that he wants to work on. I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, maybe it's Kill Bill 3. I wouldn't get your hopes up for that. Something else got his attention. That's what I think. That's the way he is. He's one of those people where something will get his attention and he's obsessed with that and focused on that for a while. Clearly, The Critic wasn't something that was keeping his focus. So we'll have to wait and find out what it is. And he's been talking about this arbitrary 10 movie deal for a while. I'm to the point, I think by the time he gets his 10th movie out, he may change his mind because he even said in an interview, and I'm paraphrasing as best I can, basically like, yeah, I mean, I just want to get out of this before, you know, I start making crap movies, because every director gets to a point where they start making movies not for themselves anymore, but just for the studio or just because, you know, they want to have a career going. And he's like, I just want 10 perfect films and blah, 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 blah. But he also mentioned, you know, I want to do some more writing, maybe some television, things like that. Maybe he'll turn The Critic into a Netflix series. He's been hovering around a Netflix series for a while. Remember, he mentioned doing something a while back. Plus, he had also brought up finishing off the Bounty Law episodes that him and those guys had done during Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So who knows what he could come up with? You never know with him. I think, because I was thinking him doing television and stuff would be a way around him doing movies. Because a lot of the old movie guys are getting to the point where they realize that cinema is dying and stuff like that. Even Scorsese doesn't want to work with studios anymore. And he's, you know, well aware of the streaming model. And some of these other older directors it's getting more difficult for them to make films anymore with a studio because they don't want to direct Marvel movies 27. You know what I mean? They'd rather just make their own thing, and the studios don't want to do that, but the streamers will. So who knows? Maybe he's going to have a better relationship with them as far as that goes, but we'll have to wait and see what he comes up with here. But he's also said basically that you never know. His kids were young. They still are a little younger. Once they get older, he might change his mind once they get into high school and he gets bored.
Well, Brian, what this has done is it's opened up a lot of speculation that Tarantino wants to do his version of Star Trek. Because a while back, there was a lot of buzz that he was going to do the next Star Trek movie. But he could take that idea and basically adjust it so that, you know, he goes out on a science fiction film, which is something that he hasn't done yet. What's your take on this?
It would be awesome if he did a Star Trek movie. I know it's not going to look like any Star Trek movie we've ever seen before, because I remember the movie that he wanted to make, like they had announced until it went away, was going to be a take on the whole gangsters on another planet thing. Remember that episode where Spock and Kirk went to a planet and they basically were like old 40s gangsters? He was going to do something like that, where it was going to be a gangster movie set in the Star Trek universe, which is wild. But you know what? I'm sorry, Tom is right. Tarantino is a genius, so I'll take whatever he wants to give me. Like, just feed me your content, Tarantino.
Mhm.
And if the last movie is actually a Star Trek movie, then what a gangster way to go out. That's all I'm going to say.
Or even if he just took his idea and adapted it to a generic science fiction movie.
Right.
think
I
it'd
would
be cool.
love a science fiction Tarantino movie.
You know,
God, I
there's
would love
One
that.
thing that's kind of weird about this, because Sony's now hovering around Paramount, and I know that may come up later, so we'll get to that. But Tarantino kind of works closely with Sony now, so
Mhm.
That's
But,
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, Vader, what do you think you would like to see as the final Tarantino film?
I have no idea what I would want to see from a Tarantino movie. I just hope he keeps it Tarantino. I mean, he has his own style, that's for sure, and that's all we want. We want just a good Tarantino movie. Do I want a Star Trek Tarantino movie? I don't know. That would be super weird, right? Right, Brian?
It would.
I just
but it would. But a science fiction
a
version?
science fiction.
A
Yeah.
It'd be better
sci-fi?
than J.J. Abrams by
Have
far.
we seen a Tarantino sci-fi movie yet?
No, I
No.
don't think so.
Closest
Um,
thing is like, I guess, like Dust Till Dawn. I guess that was sort of.
When I think of Tarantino, I just always think of why he's limiting himself to 10 movies. I don't understand it. It's like Matt said at the beginning of the segment. It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you limiting yourself? Why?
Better to burn bright than to fade away, bro.
He if he only makes 10 movies, that's fine, but he should always have an option out there to where if he wants to make an 11th or 12th movie 10 years down the road because he's sitting at home and gets bored and has a great idea, he should be able to do that, But now if he does it, he's like, come back. It's like, oh, well, this is my 11th movie. Now, wait a second. You said you're only making 10. Are people really going to hold that over his head?
No.
I hate that he's self-limited himself like this. And because like Tom said, the man is a genius. Tarantino is Tarantino, and nobody does Tarantino like Tarantino does, right? So yeah, man, I really don't care what kind of movie he makes, as long as it's good and as long as it's dripping with Tarantinoisms and it's got some bare feet in it. So that's
Obviously feet. There's got to be
F
feet.
in the
Gotta have
chat for
feet.
feet, indeed.
F in the chat for feet.
So going off of what Vader just talked about, X-Wing. So Tarantino, the reason that he announced he's only making 10 movies is because he doesn't want to fall into the trap of legendary directors who basically keep making movies past their prime and everything on the back end of their filmography is crap. It's people like Spielberg, Ridley Scott in particular, even Scorsese, like all these like formerly legendary directors haven't exactly been knocking it out of the park in the later end of their career. And he's like, I want to go out on a high, so I'm limiting myself to 10 movies. And after that, that's what you get. Do you think that that's a good strategy? And do you think that fans support that? Or are fans going to be like, no, we want bad Tarantino movies going into your salad years?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. So Tarantino's the last of a dying breed, like the actual artistic director, right? Because he has a very particular style. When you sit down, you're going to watch a Tarantino, you're getting a Tarantino movie. I don't know that at the risk of sounding dumb here, I don't know that he really has the ability to make like a bad movie. Even if Tarantino makes a bad movie, we're still probably going to love it because it's a Tarantino movie. And stylistically, I think some of his stuff could work in a bad movie, if that makes sense. I don't know if he thinks he's going to get too cheesy or what. With his style, I don't see him getting Hollywoodized, if that makes sense, falling into the tropes. I just don't see Tarantino doing that. I want him to make more movies. I can certainly respect the fact that he's afraid of falling into that category of, being past his prime. I get it. But No, man. People want to see Tarantino's until he can't make movies anymore. I think what happened with this one, possibly, this is just my speculation, is that maybe he was thinking that The Critic really wasn't a movie that was going to give him a splash at the end of his career. He was thinking maybe The Critic was more like a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It was more of a kind of a tame story, obviously not the ending, but more of a tame story as compared to like a Django or to like a Pulp Fiction or something like that. That's a lot more explosive and kind of wild. And so I have to think maybe he's kind of gearing towards something like that. He should do a Star Wars movie instead of a Star Trek movie at this point. We need some change. Give me a Star Wars Tarantino movie. I don't care.
He said in the interview about Star Trek, there's one reason why he doesn't like Star Wars. It's because it doesn't have William Shatner in it.
Well, there you go.
That's
Put
cool.
Shatner in it. He could be a Jedi Grandmaster or something.
Just do his own. How about Tarantino Tech Wars?
Well, you got to remember this too. When Tarantino wasn't almost going to make Hateful Eight, because I believe it was Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds' representation ended up leaking it out or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he changed his mind. So you never know. Like I said, he might do this as a Netflix series. Maybe that's his plan. This is actually supposed to be a quasi sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because Brad Pitt's character was supposed to show up in it.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean, even Tom Cruise was supposed to be in talks for it too. That was the other thing. Sorry.
I want to throw this to Odin because, Sony was going to be producing and releasing the Movie Critic, and they were getting really close to production on it. Everything was kind of like in motion, set to go for this movie. And then Tarantino's just like, nah, we're not doing it. And Sony's like, oh, okay. And they're going to take that money for the Movie Critic and probably put it towards their next endeavor, which is potentially buying Paramount. And if they buy Paramount, then that could open the door for Tarantino to actually do a Star Trek movie if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting because Sony is basically teaming up with this Apollo Investment Group to potentially buy out Paramount from National Amusements, which is the parent company of Paramount. And they could be sidestepping the Skydance offer for the studio. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes here, which could be a reason why Tarantino is deciding to put this movie on hold. I wanted to get your take just on like the business aspect of this, whether or not Sony is still going to be moving forward with the Tarantino final film and all this inside baseball stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say with the Sony Paramount deal because there's a lot of moving parts there. And so, who knows at this point? Obviously, anything, it seems, would be a better chance than what's currently going on for Paramount to be successful. So, we'll see where that lies. I'm myself, I do like Tarantino's films. Was a big fan of especially Hateful Eight, which is the one I was going to mention actually, was because he also, canceled Hateful Eight when the script leaked and then changed his mind later on. Tom had mentioned that. And so I think that there's always that potentiality that the Movie Critic could still end up being his last one. It's just now he's kind of maybe reached a point where he doesn't feel as confident about it as he did originally. And those things can ultimately change in the end, whether it's with Sony or anyone else. Again, it seems like Sony would be the most likely option. But again, also same thing. You just never know until things actually go down. So yeah, I mean, whatever it is, I hope he continues to make movies. I hope that he continues to go through whatever he's passionate about. And it would be nice for him to, go past the 10 movies. It is kind of a cool idea. I think maybe that's probably why, because he's a nerd. That's the other reason why I think a lot of us like his films, because he's a nerd. He's a film nerd. And so he's the kind of person where he might actually just out of principle have the 10th one be his last one, because he's like, no, that's just a cool idea that a director called his shot, right? Said, I'm making 10 and they're all going to be good. And so far, there really hasn't been a bad one. There's definitely weak ones for sure in the history of his films, but none, I think, would ever say it's like objectively a bad movie. So again, maybe that's where he's going for is, hey, I called my shot and I'm going to complete that.
Yep. All right, guys. So we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this special episode of Salty Saturdays with XWING. And we're going to go around and get some final thoughts right now. Odin, any final thoughts? And where can people find more of you?
Yeah, you can find me over at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble. I am also a panelist over on Friday Night Tights every single Friday evening. and of course this beautiful Salty Saturday stream, which again I always appreciate you having me on, and it's always fun to have these talks and discussions while my kids are napping. And as far as final thoughts go, really hope Tarantino, whatever it is he decides to do, I hope that he makes it soon, because we have a very small amount of movies that I ever have any anticipation for, and his are almost always ones that I look forward to. So anyway.
Yeah, guys, if you have an idea of what Tarantino's final movie might be, drop it in a super thanks, and we'll read it on the next show. Tom, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, again, I'm kind of just going to echo what Odin said about Tarantino. I can't wait to find out what he does have in store. I was kind of looking forward to this, but hey, if it ends up as a book or Netflix series, I'll be just as happy, I suppose. But other than that, you can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark, and I would like people to check out all the new songs I've been dropping. Midnight's Edge After Dark, if you haven't already. They've been a lot of fun. So,
just a reminder to everyone that links to all the panelists' channels are in the description, as well as links to all the articles that we covered during the show. So if you want to read in for yourselves or check out everyone's channel individually, go and look at the description. XWING, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
XWING, you can find me on XWING. I made it easy for you. Final thoughts, man. This is what I want, okay? Sydney Sweeney, William Shatner, directed by Quentin Tarantino Star Wars movie. And it's a live-action adaptation of Star Wars Outlaws. That was everything from today. There you go.
Nice.
Yep. It'll be at least a half hour of Sydney Sweeney's feet.
Yeah.
They gotta get John Travolta though to play the main character.
Yeah, he can be the Sith.
oh my God, I'm totally gonna chop you in half.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm gonna take you down.
Watch me dance.
All right, Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Just give me sci-fi Tarantino. I want that really badly. Other than that, you can find me at the Popcast, youtube.com/the Popcast, and on Pop Culture Unleashed for our live shows. Right now, every Thursday at 4 o'clock. We'll see about adding the Monday show again. And Shane's back.
Yay. Shane is back with a vengeance.
With a vengeance. He came hard on Thursday.
I'm sorry.
Shane 2, Electric Boogaloo. That's what it is. All right. Matt Vader, what do we got going on this week on the Salty Nerd Podcast?
He doesn't ask me for my final thoughts, but okay, whatever.
No one cares.
No one cares.
No one cares.
We're on the podcast this week. We're talking about the Ungentlemanly Warfare movie. I still have to go watch that. We're talking about the final 4 episodes of Fallout. That was actually a really good show. Everybody needs to go watch that. Can't wait to talk about it. And of course, we're going to be talking about Rebel Moon Part 2. I'm sure that's going to be a fantastic conversation. Probably lasts about 5 minutes. And I think we're talking about Wing Commander this week, right?
For the Patreon, yeah. For
the Patreons, we're going to be doing a Patreon show for Wing Commander. That'll be a
Freddie
doozy
Prinze
too.
Jr. classic.
Yeah. Can't wait for that. You picked this one, right?
Well, that was supposed to be another Rebel Moon situation where they were supposed to launch Wing Commander as like a new Star Wars franchise.
Yeah.
And didn't quite work out for them.
Nope.
Also want to send everybody over to take a quick second, go over to Salty Nerd Gaming on YouTube and drop us a follow over there. We're getting close to our first 100. Alex and I have been playing games over there, mostly Helldivers, but I got some plans to play some other games. I'm thinking about Mad Max, maybe some Fallout and some other things. So Salty Nerd Gaming, guys, go check that out and hit that sub button for us. Thank you. So,
yep. Excuse me. And a big thanks to XWING for joining us today. Always great to have you on the show, XWING.
Good to be here.
And we also want to give a big shout out to everyone who gave us super chats today. The Aster Nerd Boy, Gavin Blackburn, King's Advisors, the Gatekeepers Diamio, Foxhound, Big Rob, Mexican Iron Man, the Dork Knight, Mr. Tickle Trunk, Nightmare, and Fluffy Panda. Guys, thank you so much for those generous super chats of yours. Really appreciate it. And we also want to give a big shout out to everyone who gifted memberships during the stream. Jillian N., always a pleasure. Eric Winberg, thank you so much. Danny, the Dork Knight, thank you for becoming a member. And Major Chai Chai, thank you so much for all those gifted memberships. You guys are totally awesome. And we also want to give a big shout out to Scotty Dub, who is still at the top of our donation list and our top contributor of the year so far. Thank you so much for all your support, Scotty. And of course, Mexican Iron Man, Jillian N, WG, Sam Schwager, Major Chai Chai, and Eric Winberg. You guys are totally awesome. And guys, if you have anything that you want us to read out on the next live stream, be sure to drop it in the super thanks in the chat. And until next time, stay salty, my friends.